Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Traveling Molly's July 2026. Welcome. We have a really special night for you, some great open mic readers and some very special featured readers tonight. And our features tonight are Carolyn Forche, Juliana Spahr, and Mark Nowak. So welcome, everyone, and also my co-host, Nina Corwin.
Hey, all, it's so great to have you. It's so great to, as part of Traveling Molly's, be able to share all these amazing poets, not just the features, but we have, I think, one of the best open mics in Zoomtown, uh, which means all over the country. Um, so, yeah, we usually start our reading with Al and I doing a poem each. And then we have our open micers. It's a smaller, shorter uh, open mic tonight because we want to make room for our three features. And after that, we'll go into a conversation. I get to gab with Juliana and Mark and Carolyn afterwards, and you want to be here for that. So yeah, so Al, do you want to get it kicked off?
Sure. Yeah, so Nina and I are always the sacrificial poets. We get things going so nobody else has to. I'm going to start tonight with a poem some of you may have heard before. It's an older poem, but it was in my last book, Human Nature. This poem is called Brave Pride. We sold our house to a black family. In 1965 in Chicago, when the unwritten rules were clear, we broke the covenant. My father on the run from the bank, he had no more buy now, pay later excuses. I believed my father's swagger, his explanations for sneering neighbors. They were just jealous of his new TV and his big car, my mother's fur coat. His bought into dreams, discolored and deferred. Another father, scraping a path out of housing projects just 2 blocks away, claimed his piece of a used and tarnished dream, a simple brick bungalow on a 25-foot lot. This brave black family chose to live among Poles, Italians, Irish, on one side a Cuban family so arrogant they refused to speak, on the other side a clan of 8 kids, including a boy who ate dirt with a tablespoon in the front yard. Their house so close you could join in their breakfast conversation. And next to them, New World fascists who sent their son out to play dressed in military uniforms. Green was the only color my father saw in front of him. A family with a proud down payment clenched in a strong working man's hand. Broken, we moved into a 2-bedroom basement apartment, heads down on a rainy October afternoon. It's that. And Nina, it's you.
Yeah, I so love that poem. It's part of Chicago's history, or yeah, jaded history. Um, this is a poem, a shorter poem called "Right Tool, Right Time," and I just mentioned the Boy Scout motto: "Be prepared." It's a Boy Scout moment, if ever there was one. Goliath, the high-rise developer, David, the owner of a lowly bodega about to be steamrolled. Forget about slingshots, brother, those 5 smooth stones. Where's the heavy artillery when you need it? Give me a missile, I'll give you a mop. Somebody's got to clean up. Humpty Dumpty, for example, as if there weren't collateral damage enough. Someone forgets to bring the glue, and soon all the king's men are firing salvos of blame from their pointed fingers, a little egg on every face. A new machine arrives at the bank, and Karen's never felt so redundant. One day it's an ATM, the next a touch-tone phone. Press star, and Billie Holiday sings, "Them that's got shall get." Press pound, and it's the grapes of wrath all over again. Now Karen's back on the breadline. She wants to know who to shoot, but progress is wearing a bulletproof vest. The recovering addict hangs up a syringe. He tells his 12-step group, if a hammer is your only fix, you better hope your only hassle is a nail. Pete Seeger sings, if I had a hammer, I'd hammer out danger. But he has no hammer, so he keeps on singing. Thank you. So let's see where we're going to start. Chris Stewart, who just won a push cart. Let's hear what you got.
Thank you, Nina. Just one poem tonight, Tales from East Central Illinois here. And this is called On County Road 105. At dusk, a barn swallow collides with my headlamp, faltering, frantic, flapping in the umbered sky before it falls to rest on the center line. And the years fall away in a serpentine line, when mourning was the death of small things, loss measured in the space it ransomed in my young heart. Before the larger crimes, genocide in a tax return, microplastics lodged in the baleen of a blue whale, snowcaps weeping down the face of grand mountains. It's too immense. To endure it would be chaos. A liminal scrim separates us from the torrent until in the dim harbinger of night, we are unmoored on County Road 105, cast into a murder of our own making, drowned in a gulf of grief. Later, I take a garden hose to the headlamp. A spray of blood and feathers loiter on the chipped driveway before I wash it away to the street. A lingering layer of loss, dampened to a murmur, soft armor to bear it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Next, let's have Joanne Durham. What do you got for us, Joanne?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm really looking forward to hearing all these wonderful poets. Um, my second poetry book just came out 4 days ago. It's called Chasing Justice, and it's poems of resistance and poems of trying to find equanimity in the times we live in. So this poem is called Stumbling Stone, and it you may know that in Europe after World War II, there in many places people placed what they called stumbling stones in the spots where Jews and other people had been taken out of their homes and sent to concentration camps. And so in Alexandria, Virginia, last year, an artist made a sticker with a heart on it, and they placed these stickers where different people were being taken away by ICE. So the poem is called Stumbling Stone. The year I taught third grade, children, parents, teachers painted a map on the school playground, though kids were fluent in 20 tongues to say thank you, I love you, welcome. They simply oohed and awed as we lifted the sprayed stencil to reveal the world. Oceans, mountains, cities, where no borders of power lie over geography's rhythms. We ate empanadas, falafels, hot dogs, grilled by a sleepy, smiling father just off the graveyard shift. Swapped stories of origins, history, pride, names, named swaths of earth that birthed us. Last week on South Thomas Street, artist, preacher, unknown others, laid a stumbling stone to mark the place where neighbors were snatched by masked men. Paint in an open palm, with two hearts nestled between lifeline and sunline, encircled by fenceless, rifleless, borderless earth. So close to falling, I can feel my body scrape the pavement. A moment before moving on, we stumble to name, remember, resist. Thank you.
Wow, what a way to connect the past to the present, which is no better today than it was. What about, let's see, Ruth Goring. Ruth, good to see you.
Lovely to be here, always, and especially tonight. I've been thinking about how friendships have shifted for me since I started just being more active with standing up for a free Palestine. And some of it is loss and some of it is gain, because there are ways that friendships deepen when you are working together. And so this poem is called State of Being, and it's dedicated to a newish friend of mine. I'm not identifying her, but initials are S. And here it is. My friend untangles threads between surveillance of her Nazareth family and voting rights of Black folk in Louisiana. My friend shows me Debka steps, brings mamul her mother baked for Easter. We read about the civil rights movement, how a young woman stood on the Tennessee state capitol steps and shamed a governor. We are trying to shame the treasurer of Illinois out of buying Israel bonds. We want to make his name a byword. Michael Frericks, like Bull Connor, like George Wallace, Strom Thurmond, Jesse Helms. Never again for anyone. We want to wash apartheid from the river. We sing Palestine to the sea, right of return to a peaceful state, unrubbled, surging with olive trees and kites and children lost in books and harvests and bicycles and great hospitals and fat bees diving into blossoms. We want a state of being. So we hear Rachmaninoff and watch the pianist's muscular back and fearless hands. We want a fearless state, a state of flow, restored habitat of storks and herons in Gaza's coastlands, turtle doves cooing. We want no one in a state of dehydration. My friend has kept her grandmother's jewelry box. We eat together with a kind of fierceness. We watch for sunbirds with their iridescent wings. We know surveillance is not seeing. Redistricting is erasure. Bombardment is unbeing. We want a state of flourishing where my friends' cousins have their land again, where election day is a celebration, where grandmothers climb to the rooftops to shell peas in the evening air. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Good to see you. How about next in the open mic, Jim Madigan, who was our feature last month. Welcome back.
Thank you. I think it's very appropriate to follow Ruth. Over the weekend, U.S. Representative Ro Khan was harassed and arrested while he was in the West Bank. And so I'm going to read a poem called Olive Grove, Tu Bishvat. And Tu Bishvat, for those who don't know what that word is a Hebrew word, and it references a Jewish holiday of the trees. And this is from my book that came out last year, Political Prisoners, USA, and Other Poems. Thin brown fingers, wrinkled bark, noted knuckles, scars from years of labor. Hands that had cultivated carefully the trees in this grove for generations. He caresses the leaf between his thumb and index finger, observes the budding olive fruit, hears rumbling in the distance. The settlers appeared over the hill, across dry landscape, squashing through fields of watermelons, scattering goats and sheep, driving Suzuki all-terrains, Jeeps, white unmarked vans, pickup trucks, accompanied by regular military personnel in IDF vehicles and local police and militia and reservists, threatening, yelling, honking, brandishing weapons, M16s, a crescendo of dust and shouts, shots, screams, screams of children frightened, mothers' anger, and then a louder, ominous thundering of a Caterpillar bulldozer escorted by motorcycles. The settlers approached the old man, surrounded him, contained him, menaced, bullied, mocked, intimidated, crowded, pushed, poked, hit him in the solar plexus with a rifle butt, and he went down. Down on the ground, seeing dusty boots, hearing the laughs and jeers, hearing the grinding of the bulldozer gears, hearing the splitting of ancient wood, hearing the cry of the tree roots ripped from the ground. Spitting the grit from his mouth, he arises. Thank you.
It's a wonderful open mic tonight. You guys are just speaking my language, all of our languages. Don Taft, it's so nice to have you with us again tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. This first poem is from my book, which you can only sort of see, Once Upon a Riot. And this first poem draws on the Wisconsin uprising, as well as other moments, historical and mundane. Terror. My neighbor's missing teeth, those blank pages, a 30-foot white cross looming in the rearview mirror. I keep trying to find new words for this must-be disease. The difficulty of shitting in jail. There are no keystrokes. Here are all the shivering testicles, coughing nights on the Wisconsin Capitol's floors. I once knew how to use verbs. The leafy redness that terrorizes from gardens and vases, an inward branching. Simone composing, swelling with Mississippi goddamn. And then this next poem is about more recent events. You, instead of me, or us in everything. Nouns like flowers waiting, over, under, in between, the bloodlust convention staged in the Home Depot lot. Months since our faces bloomed. Headlines hit us at the knees, then sticks and gas. We fight back, oh, we fight back. Nouns starting to verb. Bodies move under cover, join under the moon. One mouth spills medicine into another. So much moonlight in our hands, we don't know where to put it. Nothing erases the hospital bed. Lyrics grow a green shoot. Sun just came out. My mouth overflows with us.
Thank you. That was, as Nina said, this is a powerful open mic tonight. Next, I'd like to ask Susanna Lane to offer up a poem or two.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here tonight. These poems are from my upcoming collection, This Spangled Night, which is going to be out in March from Cornerstone Press. Before there was a wall, the river flowed through a valley as rivers do. No sudden rises, the trees sparse, little rain. Not even a haze in the air to keep us from seeing the other side. Mirror image of this park where we found ourselves on a Sunday afternoon. We didn't enter this place through a gate or a door, so there was nothing to close. We were too far away, then we were here. We didn't notice the point of entry. Over there, a mother, father, children, grandmother ate the food they'd brought in a basket like ours. We could wave to them. Their children chased dragonflies as children did here, those bright bodies, that blur of wings. From here, we could go back, or we could go across, or we could stay on the riverbank, eating the bread we'd brought, drinking a glass of clear water. The river gleamed, sun and a few clouds reflected a shifting path between this side and the other. Ode to a single note. Between sets, he laid down his sax and said, "Someday I want to play a note so beautiful, even God will be healed. And that boy sitting in the back will ask his parents to give him a saxophone, like I did after I heard Train play just one note. I want to play a note so all-encompassing, the starlings will teach it to the other birds, and the possums rooting in my compost will lift their pink snouts to sing Alleluia. And I want to play a note so persuasive, trees will bear fruit in the desert to feed the hungry. And the temperature will drop 3 degrees everywhere on Earth, and the ice shelf will grow back in Antarctica. And when I find that note, it will be like Joshua at the gates of Jericho, except without the battle. And the only walls that will come tumbling down will be those that keep some people from coming into the city and keep others from going out." Thank you.
So good to see you and hear you, Susanna. Um, um, how about an announcement? So, two things. We do like to pay our features, even though we can't come close to paying them what they're worth. So, we have a PayPal donate button on Al DeGenova's After Hours Press website, and that is about to go into the chat, so that if you want to, you can just click on that. It'll take you to the PayPal link, and you can give whatever money. But even more important than that, we like it when poets like it when you buy their books. I constantly say that there's no better gift you can give a poet than to read their work and to buy their books. So onward. How about Carmen Calatayud?
It's great to be with you all this evening. It's going to be such a special reading with these three wonderful poets. I'm going to read a poem from my book, This Tangled Body, and it's a love poem, but maybe not a traditional love poem. It's a love story that happens after war and how those experiences bond people together. So this poem's for my parents. Refugee couple. After the bombs, we collected bones. I found a femur. But you are the spoils from all the wars, the battles between tribes and broken nations. Life started as the time between the wars, then became the wars themselves. The night we ate a blackbird and prayed he wasn't sick. Rancid bread, all of the hushed quarter moons, these memories of wartime. I don't want to remember, but then you remind me that we survived, that we were able to hide in the closet and hum. We lived through separate wars, but spoke the same language of dread. I don't know peace, but I know how to speak under my breath, how to make noise in the brief times of safety, in the crux of the ruptured world. Never mind all that. I love you from here to the border and back again. Let's leave this continent and light the path behind us on fire. Freedom is family you don't need anymore. I'll roll my heart into a sleeping bag and wear it on my back. We'll walk out of this place far from secret police. Kiss me before the sun reveals our shapes, before our shadows imprint the wall. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. So looks like closing up our open mic tonight will be Pablo Atavalo. Good to see you again, Pablo.
Good to see you all. Thank you so much. I have two for you. The first is Before We Were the Lands. My brother says you can't eat poetry, as his worn boot presses the shovel's edge into the dry earth. He digs out the stump of an American oak whose roots are broad but shallow. Look at the birds in the trees, how they sing without worry. My brother sighs. He knows they are songs of hunger. The last stay last, and the dead stay dead. The buzzsaw snarled and rattled in the yard under a silent God. Tomorrow in chains, sold for a mark on your hand of a cross, and still show up to work. The shovel's edge, the dry earth, we drown in different seas, restless. His worries pour out like water. And this is You Wake Up for Kafka. You wake up and one day you are a vermin, and your brother's a vermin, and your son is a vermin, and he loses his job and can't get out of bed, and you wake up walking across a desert, a checkpoint for vermin. A dangerous fool reads a book to a crowd that you are snakes, that your family should die in a river or under a house, or they say you are rats. You wake up stateless against a wall or fence, and they throw apples at your wounded body while it's a nice day. Thank you.
Wow. Let's give a hand for everyone in the open mic. Y'all killed it tonight.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Truly.
It's the voices, I think, of our open mic that hopefully make it a good experience for the futures to be with us. I do want to say, for everyone's benefit, the video of tonight's reading will be available on YouTube on our channel, our Traveling Molly's channel, by the time you wake up tomorrow, or by the time you finish your evening snack. Also, the links for the poets, the features, and their books are in the chat. Are they available here? Or do people have to kind of scroll all the way through to get there? I do want to mention one other thing, which is that Bill Harrison, who you will not hear tonight, is our tech guy and a prose writer in his own right. But thank you so much for making this possible. So we're good to go. Oh, one more thing. If you don't know what to do with yourself on the second Monday of the month, next month we're going to have two poets from the Affrilachian Poetry Collective, or Poets Collective, Frank X. Walker, who's one of the founders, and Jeremy Payton. So I'm thinking that's going to also be a great evening. So hope to see you back then. Now, I'm really excited to introduce Juliana Spahr, winner of the 2026 Pulitzer Prize, for her book Ars Poetica. Writer and scholar. I'm going to kind of read fast if I can so that we have more room for poetry. She has a 2015 collection, That Winter the Wolf Came, which concerns the global spread of political struggles located at the intersection of ecological and economic catastrophe. She also has a highly fictionalized, but still probably memoir, Army of Lovers, which was co-written with David Buck. And there's some other stuff here. She was so many things that we'll probably discuss at the end of the evening. She was also the editor with Claudia Rankin of American Woman Poets in the 21st Century. Juliana, thanks for joining us tonight. I can't wait.
Thanks for having me. That was really lovely to hear the people before. It was so nice. Glad to be here. I'm at Mono Lake, which feels really weird to be doing a reading from. But anyway, warblers and the northeast flowing winds ride together down the river these cool spring nights. Sugar maples, beech, and northern red oaks grow to a largeness helped by ferns and fungi. The bobcat and the wood rat shelter beneath nearby. The Virginia creeper and its leaves of 5 adhesive tips, its carefree, ball-like fruits twine around the sawbriars that grow so fast overnight that it is as if by the foot. The familiar bluet hovers over, above, around. As you well know, this place is weighty, tawdry, the soil redolent, the symphony terrestrial. The sun's late day glimmer pleases so much it might as well be fireworks, a choreography of eddies and currents fed by tributaries, the Muskingum, the Miami, the Wabash, and the Scioto from the south, the Tennessee, the Big Sandy, and the Licking from the north, that babble happily. You, at a siren off in the distance, pause dramatically to list the names of everyone you once kissed beneath its bridges in the darkness that harmonizes with fecundity. And then you, never one to hold back, insist on putting just one more bird on it, if only because you want to dwell with the words golden wing, chestnut sided and yellow rumped. That feeling of possibility that you can hold both of the river's climates, the subtropical one and the continental one, in a few lines. That conviction that all it takes is to find a few words in the dictionary, inventory a dangerous lexicon of allure, and allow a fleeting encore to come out the other side. That belief that a poem can meaningfully insist that someone take a moment and just bother with beauty. That someone, sorry, just my computer. Just bother with beauty. That someone will understand a poem to be an intricate sonnet of interconnected streams. That someone will claim there is a political beauty and a few important sounding words arranged in rough syllable counts. By someone, you mean a clown, curly red hair, exaggerated red and white lips, something funny going on with the eyebrows, the sort that suddenly shows up in this locale, celebrating the intrinsic beauty of the space with yet another poem about lost opportunity and bad timing and relationships. By clown, you mean yourself just moments ago, all of that gone. You can't say it that way anymore. No one can. A dog is barking as you turn your head to see the coal barge floating down the river's curves, heading to the power plant off in the near distance, ominous beneath the blue plume of smoke produced by its smokestacks. Horace makes fun of those who write of babbling brooks, and he did not even know about coal barges and capitalism, much less the late capitalism that blossomed while you sat around thinking about the cuteness of a bobcat and a wood rat, two enemies sheltering under a very large sugar maple in an image of an impossible Pax Americana. If only for the sake of self-analysis, you think something ought to be written about the cooling towers, the 765 kilovolt transmission lines, the smokestacks, the blue plume that regularly dusts the tubal inflorescence of the bee balm, the stubby blue flowers of the wild indigo, the polished, vibrant red, deeply five-lobed racemes of the pinnately cut and lobed wood poppy, and the dark green and the black of the white wood aster. Even that bobcat and that wood rat sheltering beneath get plumed. Years ago, because of the plume, everyone human in town packed up their houses and left, pocketing 3 times the market value for them. Bee balm, blue indigo, wood, poppy, whitewood, aster, bobcat. Wood rat obviously had nothing to sell, and so settled in tolerating. Horace suggests couplets and iambs to tell a tragic tale, this tragic tale of particles, sulfates, and nitrates, water, gaseous nitrogen dioxide, sulfur trioxide, full of mercury, of polyfluorinated alkyl substances of emissions, coal ash fly, humid bottom ash, boiler slag, scrubber sludge of fluidized bed combustion ash, residues, milky drop, soot, and white specks, all carried by southern winds. There you go again, counting syllables as your index fingers drum out an elusive beat on your wooden desktop. You never wanted to lose faith in a poem, the many intricate interplays between love, the natural world, and statements of identity. That elusive calculus of 70, 20, and 10% that defies neat delineation. But it was not like you ever bothered to have faith in it, even as you rhymed sulfates and nitrates. After the barge passes by, a picnic on the car's hood ensures cheese, crackers, and onion are consumed in a liminal space. You have to do this sometimes. Come out into the open. It is some puzzle how you continue standing here as if to sing while breathing the smoke of the pit. The air saturated, the river's steeped history as birds peck away at fellow birds. And yet, what else are you doing here besides hoping to find some sort of instruction manual on how to refrain this song, where elk graze beside the strong oak tree hunted down yet persisting, a song akin to night, heron ghost and bluebird ghost, stuttering to each other, if only for the desire to communicate. Comforting is a complicated word. Thank you.
do we get more from you?
I don't know. Wasn't that for how long was that?
You know what? It was probably about 7 minutes. Do you
7 minutes.
want to share more?
I'm fine with 7 minutes.
All right. Well, I do want to say that you have a lovely backdrop.
It's quite lovely here. It's true.
Well, I'm talking about the people and the dog and the
Oh, are there people and dogs back there? Sorry.
the movable backdrop. Wonderful. I'm starting to think of questions and discussions. So, and is that from Ars Poetica?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to Mark Nowak, who was partially responsible for constructing the ensemble we have tonight. Mark's books all on Coffee House Press, Shut Up, Shut Down, Coal Mountain Elementary, Social Poetics, and ... again, which is as in Make America Great Again. That should be fun. He's been awarded fellowships from Guggenheim, Lannan, Creative Capital Foundations. His works on poetry by incarcerated writers of the 70s includes the introduction. I'm not even going to try with that part, but Attica Prison Poems and Journal, and let's see here. The Political Uses of Literature, Global Perspectives and Theoretical Approaches, 1920 to 2020. He's the founding director of the Worker Writers School. Now I'm ready to listen. We're all ready to listen.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Great to hear everybody read, even if we don't hear Juliana long enough. I'm just, again, is this book that I wrote about Trump and MAGA and white nationalism, and it's 5 abecedarian poems, prose poems, poems in alphabetical order. So I'm just going to, so they're each 26 pages long. I'm just going to read one piece from each of the 5 sections. It's fall, winter, spring, summer, fall again. So from the first one, fall, I'm reading this one, of course, because the book's called Again, also because all of this shit's in the news over and over again. This is, of course, ice in Houston and Maine in the last couple of days. But this was written in 2020. It is the I poem in fall. A white Kia on the side of the highway, inclement weather, interrogation ICE agents, histories of mass incarcerations, of mass demonstrations, of mass liquidations. You can see the IHOP sign from here, the IKEA billboard, In-N-Out Burger from here, intensive care units, intensification of COVID-19 cases, high blood pressure, diabetes, a country incontinent, intravenous injections, infantilized by its infantry, by its infancy, by its illegitimacy. I drive along the Housatonic River as it crosses under Route 20 3 times, stop sometimes to listen to the river water, PCBs from the abandoned General Electric factory, now a Superfund site, intolerable and inevitable, cinder block architecture, Family Dollar, Dollar General, bioaccumulation and the birds, red-winged blackbirds, white-throated sparrows, blue jays, and brown-headed cowbirds. Night is up against whatever makes the owls so seldom afraid of the night. Goodwill store abandoned, its windows dirty for lease signs in blood-red letters, the asphalt in the parking lot, a sheet of early ice. Second poem is from the winter section. I finished that one right around the time of the Biden-Trump election, and then January 6th happened. So the second Abecedarian is about January 6th. I'm just going to read one section from it. Any kind of king is still a king. Any kind of cadaver is still a cadaver. Death knows this, kinda. Undertakers undertaken it, kinda. Priests, kingmakers, queens kept by their kings. Kinships, the kingships, kingfishers, the kiss of death. Fly the flags with the king name, break barricades and windows shouting the king's name. All hail, Sig Heil, Oye, Oye, our king. Mandarin headed Mandarin, kiss the king of the Kaiser, kiss the ring of Caesar, kiss the ring of the Tsar. Kamikazes, Kalashnikovs, any kind of king is still a caliph, any kind of king is still a Khan. Death has known this for centuries. Centuries know this, kinda. Security guards secure it, kinda. Flags fly with the monarch's coat of arms, chanting the king's name, shrieking the king's name again and again. Trump Towers, Trump University, Trump National Golf Club, Donald J. Trump State Park, repeat after me. Any kind of king is still a kingdom. Dukes, oligarchs, rise, repeat, overlords, autocrats, dons. Any kind of king is still a king. Then in 2022, May 14th of 2022, a white nationalist shooter walked into the Top supermarket in my hometown of Buffalo, New York, opened fire. He had found the where within a couple hours of him demographically he could find the most Black people, streamed it on Twitch. He also created a 186-page manifesto. So in these next parts of the books, one of the things he did is research all his bullets, guns, shields, scopes, etc., into a huge list. So I alphabetized it. So if I say something with a price, that's from his list. He's from my congressional district, New York 19. And so I figured out where he lived. I drove to his house and sat in front of his house and wrote, drove to his high school, drove to his shooting range, drove to the grocery store where he worked, took notes. And then I was also looking at all the mass shooters of recent years. And when I was reading the newspaper articles, everybody used the same Q word to describe the shooter. So this is the Q poem from spring. A quiet subdivision, a quiet dead-end lane. This place is always so quiet. A large quantity of ammunition. It's so quiet here. Such a quiet neighborhood, such a quiet boy, a quiet country life, a really nice area and quality of life. Quintessential small town America. Quick clot combat gauze, $39.88. Quiet hometown, quiet road, quiet street. He was very quiet. He was just a quiet, smart kid that I wouldn't think he'd be able to do anything like what he did. Quiet student. He was always so quiet. Core performance ice plate EXO, $650. A quiet, studious boy, a quiet young man, very polite and quiet. He was very quiet and left on his own terms, quietly. A quiet type, so very quiet. It's just so quiet afterwards, just so quiet here, really quiet. Next second Abecedarian is on the first Trump assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. And at the bottom of it is the congressional report, but it's almost all redacted out. And this is the text above it. It's the S poem from summer. Somewhere there is sunshine, and somewhere else there are thunderstorms and floods. Somewhere there is silence, and somewhere there is too much sound. In a country like this country, in a state like the state we're in, somewhere there are stratus clouds, and somewhere there are altostratus or even stratocumulus clouds. Somewhere, but most likely everywhere, there are security cameras. There is constant surveillance 24/7. And somewhere there are Secret Service snipers and SWAT teams with silencers on their long-range rifles. Somewhere there is fire, and somewhere there is ICE. In a country like this country, in a state like the state we're in, somewhere there is stinging nettle by the side of the road. Somewhere there are shelter-in-place orders, and somewhere else there are stock options. In a town like this town, in a countryside like this countryside, somewhere there are stormtroopers, and somewhere the suspect is down. On a street like this street, in a country like this country, the shooter dies of a single gunshot wound, and someone else says, this is just like what happened in Slovakia. And the last one I'll read from Fall again. This one has this huge grayscale list. These are, I went, because I was obsessed with the alphabet by this point in time. I was on the website for the Southern Poverty Law Center for their list of hate groups, and I decided to alphabetize all of them. So all of these are just the letter A in grayscale, and this super short poem kind of falls in between them. I'll read a few of them. I'm not going to read all of them on this page, maybe just two little sections. Abiding Truth Ministries, AC Skins, ACOC, Act for America, Act for America, New York, Metro Act, Active Club, Adams County, Pennsylvania, Chapter Moms for Liberty, Advanced White Society, Advocates Protecting Children, Affirmative Right, Alabama Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. An American Flag, Antiphonal Clouds, Amber Waves of Grain, an Aldi, an AutoZone, an abandoned Napa auto parts store. Anytime and anywhere, golden arches in the American landscape. American Vanguard, American Vikings, American Viking Clothing Company, American Vision, American White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Americans for Legal Immigration, Americans for Truth about Homosexuality, Americans Have Had Enough, American Anderson County, New South Carolina Chapter Moms for Liberty. Again is just the beginning of Against. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Carmen just sent out a note, Al and Bill, that the chat is disabled on YouTube. She got that from somebody who's out in the audience. So if you would,
Yes, I saw that. I was trying to fix it, so I'm not sure how, but I don't know why that happened.
Yeah, I
right,
don't know how either. I also saw that, but I don't know.
all right. Well, hopefully our techies are going to be able to make that happen. We shall see. But now, I want to introduce Carolyn Forche. Just so you know, we were going back and forth for a couple of years. And finally, thanks to Mark, we got you here with this wonderful program. Carolyn is the author of 5 books of poetry. I could mention the last first, but I think I'm going to mention the first because a world of us became aware of Carolyn Forche when she was chosen for her book, Gathering of the Tribes won the Yale Series of Young Poets Prize. She, in addition to that, since then, she has had the book In the Lateness of the World 2020 was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. Also Blue Hour in 2004, which was rendered, or at least some part of it was rendered into music by Carolyn Shaw, who's an amazing amazing composer, and you can see some of that on YouTube. And The Angel of History in 95, winner of the LA Times Book Award. The Country Between Us in 82, winner of the Lamont Prize from the AAP. She has a prose book out from 2019, What You Have Heard Is True, a memoir of witness and resistance, which it won an award for human rights in Latin America. It was a finalist for the National Book Award. And she received in 1998 an award from the Hiroshima Foundation for Peace and Culture Award. I'm abbreviating things, just so you know. She's a distinguished university professor at Georgetown University in DC and a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. That's people here really accomplished and so full of their commitment and passion for the world. Carolyn, thanks for being here. You are muted.
This is
Just-
something I tend
There you
to,
are.
I'm very sorry. Thank you very much, Nina. And Mark, thank you for getting in touch with me. And thank you, Juliana, for your wonderful reading, and Mark, your reading, and all of you. They were really wonderful, very moving, and I needed that right now. So I'll preface the first poem by saying that I was in contact with a doctor in Gaza who was living in a tent and working in another tent, mostly during the night, because we were trying to make arrangements to get people help. And I learned from him that they were getting a lot of children with single bullets in the head, little children, and they didn't really understand how people were getting so close to them that would happen. And it turned out to be from drones, and the children thought they were toys. And so meanwhile, a friend in Ukraine told me too that they had the same experience in Kherson. And so we tried to get in touch with people in Kherson and say, you have to teach the children that they aren't toys and not to look at them. So that took me down the rabbit hole of research on drones, and this came out of that. On Being Watched from Above. They see everything, not only from the air, but from the side and rear. To help you stay invisible, these tips have been compiled. There are no secrets to staying completely invisible, so they are not included here. Dig in. Everything is watched, everything from buildings to trees. Camouflage yourself and your dwelling. All changes in placement, color, or design are noticed. They are above you, nevertheless, and will not disappear. They will notice anything of interest. There must continue to be nothing of interest to them. Make use of what you have. In the forest, there are branches, turf, and grass. In the settlements, there are bricks, slate, and boards. In the open, consider the time of year. Use sand, snow, or leaves, typical of the season. Do not draw attention to yourself by throwing anything away. Bag, bottle, wrapper, paper, all will make you visible. If you are already in a littered place, there is no need to tidy up. Avoid trampling new paths. Use the paths that were there before you. Avoid straight lines. There are no straight lines in nature. Avoid movements on roofs, between buildings, and near windows. Do not stand where you will stand out. Don't rush to cover the windows with blackout paper or blankets. This changes the building's facade. Use hidden roots that are difficult to see from above. Leaves, branches, moss. Hide the generator under a canopy. Keep the fuel in a separate place. Do not hide together with the fuel. Keep increasing the number of hidden rooms. Having one safe place where everyone can stay together is a big mistake. Never gather more than 3 together. Always have a second entrance in case the first is destroyed. Backpacks, boxes, and zinc draw attention. Do not smoke, use flashlights, or light bonfires at night. Make sure your phones are in flight mode. This helps you to stay invisible, but don't be fooled. If your phone is on, they can learn everything about you. Your position can be detected with radio signals, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. More than 3 devices is considered a cluster that arouses interest. If possible, create false clusters away from your positions. Avoid moving in groups. They are looking for a human face. Move tree to tree with spacing between yourselves. Stop only in the shade, hide only in the shadows. Remember that rooting in a place kills. Do not become rooted. Watch the air. All objects in the air should be considered a danger to you. The sooner you detect them, the more time you have to prepare. During the day, they are first detected by sound. At night, they can be seen in the thermal imager at a distance. It is better to change your position at dawn or dusk when there are fewer in the air. If you see them high in the distance, do not run. If they hover above you, you are in their sights. Take shelter or run in a snake, but do not forget other threats. Touching one that has fallen is not a good idea. In the event of attack, use of smoke may be necessary. With a smoke screen, you can hide movement or simulate damage. A well-applied smoke screen can hide a position for some time. Never, however, be in the center of a curtain of smoke. Set the smoke screens differently, depending on the wind, frontal, oblique, or flanking. Here, the tips end. Watch the air. Do not forget about the wind. So this is, next one is a poem I wrote for the doctor, Dr. Baha. It's called Texting with the Tense. A boy dreams of meat and chocolate. Another collects what he thinks are the bones of his brother from what was once his house. The doctor shoots a video of dead cars, donkey carts, ruins in ruin, the tent where he sleeps, the other tent where he tends the wounded, tents and tents, rugs, faces, pails, an empty flour sack. You have seen ribs jutting from the carcasses of animals. These are almost carcasses, the children of humankind. They mistake the little drones for toys, drones sent to shoot at a human face, whirligig birds with little motors. This is why we can say it was the toys. So this came from a time I was in Minneapolis, coincidentally invited to read at the very time when those killings were happening. These poems were all written in a hurry, it kind of urgent poem. So they're new, they're very new for me, and I'm not used to publishing new poems or reading them, but here we go. On living in the hour of cities under siege. It is a time of being sorted by skin and hair, by mother tongue, as being from here or there. As pepper spray fills the air until the whole city stinks of it. And the men who arrive in rented cars with out-of-state plates with faces covered begin their hunt for carpenters, housemaids, dishwashers, kindergarten kids, for anyone who to them looks like they aren't from here. They'll pull you through the window of your car. They will not tell you who they are, who is in command. They wear a little of the alphabet and do not know that ice out also means the date in spring when it is forbidden any longer to fish on the lakes. They tackle and beat and cuff. It is never enough. This is where the people make their stand. These are the city's barricades and fires. Leaf blowers blowing the tear gas back. Here are the bouquets left in the snow for the dead. Candles in glass jars guttering out. Hymns once sung in church. Anyone may be taken, and those who stand in the way are shot in the head. This is what should be said to the coming cities. You'll need gas masks, goggles, armbands, milk for your eyes. The name of someone who will search if you disappear. When the time comes, take in anyone who needs to hide. Bring pots of food to front lines everywhere. Hot soup and cocoa, a roast potato to warm the hands. When the time comes, listen to the whistles, the car horns, the cries in the air. And I think all of us have developed some form of insomnia, at least on occasion. So this comes from mine. And it also comes from curiosity about what's missing from all the stories we get about places. What we don't know. When I wake at night, I tell myself it is for no reason. I should do the impossible and go back to sleep, as there is safety under the blanket, even though this is not true elsewhere in the world, where at this moment missiles are igniting refineries. Here, geese are on the spring flyway in their honking V's, having sensed the thaw of the marshes, and a yellow haze of leaf bud has begun in the trees. Spring is coming. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, named for a barren, salt-domed island called Rainbow Island, in the swirling colors of its salt, shale, clay, and volcanic rock. Its several mineral shades of ochre, blue, and orange. There is a red soil too called galak, used as a spice in curries and in a sauce over tomshi, a bread that means handful of something. And because this soil is also a spice, Hormuz is said to be an edible island. In its caves, the salt is thought to absorb suffering and to inspirit anyone who stands on it in bare feet. There is a valley of statues sculpted by winds and a rainbow valley, so called for its vibrant soils, as seen in the photographs of other planets. The Portuguese left a castle in ruin here to guard the strait. while above on the flyway migrating flamingos, geese, cormorants, and cranes are already rowing the wind. And in the darkness of this room, flamingos are flying, magenta against the night. Awake or asleep, doesn't matter. And I think I'll close with a poem in lieu of flowers. It's the last poem in the new poems of this book. This is Otherwhere. It's being published in September. It's my first and last new and selected poems. And last because I don't have time to make enough of anything to have any more selected of anything. So it's, we weren't told as children there is no going back, but we are allowed to keep with us a few times and places, thin as tissue paper in the mind. Finding these in the mind is like moving through a forest at night. We do this alone in our rooms in the dark by the light of an open door. Then a thought comes, like a bird landing on a blanket. Someone else's papa comes toward us with his belt off. Ever since he came home from the war, they would say of him, while we children hid in the holes we had dug in the fields, in the houses we built, in the trees. This is a house of spider lace and blankets filled with down from geese that once flew in the clouds. In the carpenter's atelier, there is the beginning of a boat that will someday move along the river. It will take on water in the rain, but will never sink. It will know what it is doing among the reeds. It will sail even in a heavy dew, as light a river as that. Wondrous to be floating in a boat we have made from oaks sealed with pitch. Wondrous to think that we are all floating in a boat we ourselves have made. Our river, glazed with light, moves more swiftly for some than for others. It is not bottomless, not without a vast sea into which it will vanish at the end. Strange, after so many centuries, to be alive at the end. Okay, thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you. And thank you, Mark, and thank you, Juliana. What a richness of different textures dealing with some of the darkest things that are going on in our times. Before we start with our conversation, just because okay, I'm getting texts I shouldn't get. Because the chat was disabled on YouTube, maybe it does seem to be working again, but would you mention two of your favorite books, of your own books, and the publisher's website, you know, so that people know what websites to go if they want to try to avoid Amazon. Juliana?
Yes.
Two of your favorite books that you
Okay.
want people to buy. You could just actually, why don't you just mention them so that in case people aren't seeing it, that they will. So I imagine one of them would be Ars Poetica, which one? the Pulitzer just what, a month and a half ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was just going to put the two most recent books, which is Ars Poetica and then That Winter the Wolf Came.
Great. How about you, Mark?
I just say the two most recent two, which would be Again, which I read from, and Social Poetics, both from Coffee House Press.
And is social poetics prose or poetry?
It's a prose book on both kind of the history of community-based creative writing workshops and the work that we do with the Worker Writer School.
All right, good. Carolyn, how about you?
Well, I would say the memoir, What You Have Heard Is True, which is from Penguin Press. It's kind of the backstory of the Colonel poem, if you say anything about it, but it's about El Salvador in those times. And I'm not the main character. I'm just the narrator. They call it a memoir, but it's not really a memoir. And then this one, Otherwhere, which is coming out with Scribner in September, because, well, it has sections of all of them and the new ones.
You know, as I listen to all three of your readings, I do feel the like a sense of urgency about urgency to channel and to tell the story of some of the political and human things that you are most passionate about. I'm going to give you a kind of a false dichotomy question and just do whatever with it. Which came first, poetry or politics for you?
I'll jump in first, and I would say the answer is C, music. I was, when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, an electronic musician. And that was like kind of early punk, early hip hop, electronic music. And so like it made total sense that you should kind of sample sounds and be political in your art making. They weren't kind of separate things. So C, music.
All right.
Okay, for me, it's poetry came first because I've been writing it since I was about 9, but politics came early when I was a teenager because that was the period of the civil rights movement, and I'm from Detroit, and I was very taken with that, even though I was a child, and then the Vietnam War and so on. So they always felt, for a while, I thought they were separate things. I know now that none of this is separate, but for a while I thought my political work and activism was something different than my writing. And then but I've always written what seemed most urgent for me, even though I'm slow and I take a lot of time with it. The poems are always come out of deepest obsessions, and that's always been the larger world for me.
It's an interesting question because I was trying to think. I was so glad to go last. I was hoping one of you guys would help me think it through. But there is, I mean, I was trying to think about like what's politics. I mean, I think my answer is I think I'm gonna go with poetry also, because that question of like at what moment do you kind of like see yourself as falling into something that's political, it's kind of hard. It's like very hard to kind of like locate finally. Although, I mean, I would say like same, I mean, same thing. Like you start writing poems in elementary school, um, really early on, and then I don't know. It's, I mean, yeah, they seem very intertwined or something.
For a while, it was not the literary world was not very receptive to writing out of concerns that were immediate and contemporary, I would say, of any kind, whether it was ecocide or El Salvador. And I got in a lot of trouble with the literary world. And I didn't know there was this rule that you couldn't write about those things when I published my second book. So I violated a rule that I didn't know existed, which is not a new thing for me, and I keep doing it, but that was a real education for me. And when I began to really see what was going on, in hierarchies and in privileged environments and so on.
Other thoughts on this? I will say it seems like for all three of you, at least in some of the work, particularly what we've heard tonight, you have put your poetry in service to the causes that are most important to you. Would that be fair?
I don't, I feel like I would probably phrase it differently. Like I think I would phrase it around kind of like that I write poetry and then I do some other things out in the world. And there's a wide range of things that I do out in the world every day. I drink coffee too, and stuff like that. Um, and all that stuff kind of factors through the poem. And then, sometimes I'm doing something that is very clearly political, let's say, and that shows up in the poem, but I'm not sure that like um, the sort of writing that I do and my relationship to it is very different than I was going to say than the sort of things that Mark Nowak's talking about and social poetics in some way, like the community. I don't feel like I write out of a community workshop or out of a specific community, the way that other writers might.
Mhm. I have a community of social activists, but I don't have a very coherent community of poets. I have poet friends scattered all over the place. But I don't think of it as putting the poem in service of something. I feel like I've so deeply internalized what winds up on the page. I don't know what I'm going to write about when I'm facing the blank paper. It comes and then I go with it. But I've so internalized it that I don't think of it as a separate thing that I'm putting in service. You know what I mean? It's yeah. I think a lot of times writing is an act of resistance too.
People say that. Can you break that down?
Well, if you're, especially right now, what we're seeing is a kind of extremely aggressive silencing of people who weren't silenced before. And now that this silencing has spread, I think violating the silencing is automatically could be seen as a hostile act by fascist authoritarians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mark, anything to throw into there?
I don't know that I have a lot to throw in. I think for me, it's sort of like there's three different sort of areas. Like when I'm doing the worker writer school or social poetics, it probably is closer to that. When I'm doing the research on the prison writing of the 70s, it's somewhat closer to that, the abolition movements and that kind of work. And in my own work, it's just, I don't know, like during the pandemic when this book started and, we were getting done with the first 4 years of Trump, and then he lost, but he said he won, and January 6th happened. And I just sort of couldn't imagine not writing about MAGA and white nationalism and white power, because it was absolutely everywhere. Like where I live in a rural area, it's all, even though it's New York, it's all like Gadsden, Rattlesnake, Don't Tread on Me flat. Like the photos are in the book. I mean, it started by me stumbling by mistake into a Trump rally in the first photo in the book, and I'm surrounded by pickup trucks flying, like the first photo in the book. So it was like, I don't know if it's writing from a cause as much as it was just writing from this, landscape that seemed to me to be really quickly sliding into a kind of like, Mussolini kind of state. And so I don't know if I was writing in the service of something or just describing what was around me.
Mm.
I'm thinking that these are different places that one could call a poetry of place, but in a different way. This place is very big, the place of labor, the place of terror and fascism and environmental destruction. I'm putting these into sound bites, which I don't like doing. However, how are we doing for time? One thing that I noticed that the three of you do to a greater or lesser extent is maybe not quite lists, but cataloging. Does that feel true? And any thoughts about it?
I think it's true.
What?
I think it's true. I kept hearing it in their work too, and I was like, "Oh, that's where I got it from." And,
It's hard to give up a list, I mean, I love catalogs of things. Keeping track of everything, naming them. I do too much of it, maybe, but it's a very useful thing.
What's important to you about that?
The catalogs?
Yeah, you're using catalogs, yeah.
I think it's helping sometimes, maybe as it was maybe with the abecedary of organizations that came out of one of Mark's pieces.
Yeah.
This can be overwhelming. It's a way of ordering.
Mhm.
It's a way of ordering and being as thorough as possible
Mhm.
about what it is you're doing, what it
Mhm.
is you're seeing, and what it is you're describing.
Yeah, I wonder if it's also, is a way of, never mind what I'm going to say. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Oh, say, come to your question.
What was I going to say? That it was just a thought that using lists, it seems, allows you to present a lot of stuff without adding a lot to it, except in the juxtaposition. And I'm thinking about the first poem you read, Carolyn, where it was like, it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and it's just kind of coming at you. Does that?
When you think about you know, the history of making in language, you know, you have litanies and chants and inventories, and you know, there's a rich history to. I came across something from the from an ancient. They were hymns from the 4th century from one of the deserts, and I'm the name of the desert is gone right now. But they were all abecedary and done for the capacity to remember them. They were mnemonic. And I discovered them after I did a long 42-page abecedary called On Earth. And then I saw this thing and I thought, wait a minute. I compared the two and I thought, this has been done for thousands of years. So, yeah.
To me, I think they help me work through kind of chronological time in a different way, right? So that like in the January 6th poem, I kept watching over and over. This C-SPAN has this like 6 hours of uncut footage that you can watch from basically the ellipse to the night. It might be more than that, it might be 10 hours long. And I would watch it over and over again. And so that story of January 6th happens in a certain order. But if you have to think about it alphabetically, like the beginning of the day with the letters A, B, and C, and the middles with L, M, N, O, and the end of the day with X, Y, Z, that gives you like a horizontal plane to go along with the chronological plane, right? And so it's like each letter is intersecting at a different point in time on the chronological plane. And so I feel like the list does that for me, right? It gives me like a verticalness to balance the chronological movement of time in the poem. It's kind of slows it down and allows me musically to think about pace and speed and rhythm differently than I would if I were just, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., et cetera, 1 p.m., et cetera.
That would be a list too, though, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes the syntax, will produce an anaphora or something, and so you get a music. Automatically, it generates a kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much. How about you, Juliana?
I've been asked this question before, and I found it very difficult to answer. And I mean, I think I would answer it very similar to the way Mark did, which is something around the pause, or like when Carolyn said music or something. Like I really think that that's how it's functioning in the work, although that's not really. I feel like there should be some higher purpose, which I don't know what it is. It feels to me often also like a form of besottedness, like things that are taking up so much space in my brain that I want to spend time with them.
What was the last thing you said?
Things that I want to spend time with, or and some
Yeah.
like things that I'm obsessed with, whether good or bad, things. Like again, like that for the drone poem, right? The kind of list aspect of that drone poem, which was a bad, a bad thing, and so it's not merely celebration or something. It's like some other things going on with it.
What's the word? Not incantatory. It's like it's pulling it up. It's calling it forth. And what made me think about this in regards to your work was that you were making reference to big businesses by name. And you were also talking about, in very specific terms, about science, which is a challenge, I think. But perhaps the cataloging of it helps to frame it. Thoughts?
Yeah. I think it can be a frame, but it's hard to get, you know, it's something that the language generates, you know, and we're surrounded by them too all the time. We don't maybe always notice them, but you know, our world, we see lists all the time. And so I think it's something that the language produces. And so we play with it, you know, and some ways it makes approaching certain things possible or including them in a, yeah.
You know, oh, as we were talking, one of the things that I've been thinking in some way is that, you know, like poetry has all these like very measured forms, right? That's a very long history of it in some way. And if you don't want to go back, or you don't want to use these kind of pre-written forms that have, you know, they have a lot of data around, like they have national histories and nationalisms and other things around them. That I think of it almost, it's like an interruption in the kind of default free verse, right? That doesn't feel like it's the same kind of like counting around something.
Actually, I'm looking at the time. Just so that I know how much we have time to talk about. I'm going to move on to something totally different. Let's see, how did I rate this? With your most recent books, what did you aspire to? What are some of the choices that you made? Mark?
Well, I don't know that I aspire. I go first. I don't know that I really aspired to anything, you know, like when I started the first poems in the book, I mean, it goes back to the list question. Once I got on the alphabetical order, it just, my brain wanted to put absolutely everything in alphabetical order. So I would look at the stores in like the strip malls and the plazas and put them in alphabetical order, and the fast food restaurants I put in alphabetical order. And because I was just driving back and forth doing like pickups during COVID, right? Like, and things like that. And that's all I had to do. And when I was working on, so I think one of the things that changed was that the alphabetical order allowed me to kind of put that obsession into the poem in a way, which I found useful. So like in the January 6th poem, I thought at one point I had a poem, the very first poem I wrote for it was a poem about owls, because I couldn't, Carolyn's insomnia comment, I couldn't sleep. And at 3 a.m, there were just barred owls outside, and a poem came out of that. And I was like, oh, I always loved the carrion birds in Sophocles. And so I wonder what all the carrion birds are, and if I could put them in alphabetical order and put one in every single poem, is that be possible in that section? And so it just gave me a way, once I thought of something, to like spread the wealth, you know, to like put it in every single one of the poems. And so I guess if I had an aspiration, it would be to spread as many lists of alphabets across each of the poems as I possibly could.
All right.
I feel like Aspire seems so ambitious in some way, whereas I was kind of like, I was like that the Ars Poetica is like the, you know, like I was kept getting asked to write these poems. And at a certain point I was like, oh, people keep asking me to write environmental poems because they wanted environmental poems for some reason. And I just kept doing it. And then, so the aspirations were really low. Like sometimes they were to get $200 or something that's really small. Um, and then kind of like just put them together at that moment. Oh, there's your cat.
Yes, there she is. She's going to take a nap now, or else she'll add to my question.
She's perfectly posed there. I was putting together this new and selected, and so it's kind of easy to, I decided, okay, I'll give in and I'll do one of these. And I realized that they're not so easy to do. You have to pick poems from all your books, and the publisher won't let you have, very many of them from each book. So, you just do that. But the new section, when you give in and say to a publisher, yeah, I'll do it, you have to have new poems for a new and selected. So the selected part was much easier than the new poems because I like to wait like 4 or 5 years after I first write a poem before, I let it sit and I put it through a lot of revisions and I think it's not there yet. None of them are there yet. So with this one, I had to take a big risk, which is to publish newly written work. So I decided that what these all had in common was that they were emergency poems, And so that's what the new poems are. They're all emergency poems.
Did you write them for the selected?
I started writing them when I knew I had a selected that I started writing them because I wanted something that would cohere, but I also, I didn't have, I'm slow. I published a book, but once it took me 17 years between books, at least a decade between them, in my late 70s, and I have 5 books. See what I mean? So I had to write pretty quickly, and that's what happened. And so I had to let myself be a lot freer, less constrained than I usually do. Also had to not be afraid like I usually am. I really don't like publishing. I know most people like it, but I've always been terrified of it. So I had to get over that and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Do you guys have, or can you come up with a question you'd like to ask one of the others or both of the others?
Well,
I wanted to, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I wanted to ask Carolyn earlier, like a half hour ago, maybe, a question around like when you started talking about, like you couldn't write the political poem or like you hadn't even realized it was a rule, but there it was a rule. And I think you're right around that. And I'm just kind of interested in like how you see that transitioning into like whatever it is that we're into today. Like, does it feel like what are the rules today? Because they're probably not, they don't seem to be the it seems like the political poem's okay. But are there other?
Yeah, the political poem is okay. I don't know exactly how that happened. I'm not sure how that happened because it was such an anathema for a long time. And I think it might have had to do with the emergence of poetries that were submerged and oppressed and silenced before. And we've been living through a period of, at least until recently, of a great, flowering of that. Today, it's almost, it's strange, but I don't know. Are there rules? I think there are fashions. I think there are, um, in-group, out-group things. I don't know exactly what they are. Perhaps it's harder these days to write quieter poems that don't have emergencies in them, or aren't taking on this one of the fragments of this broken world that we're all living in. So but I really don't know. I don't think there are taboos anymore. And I think I know what the proscription against political content came from. It came from the agrarians and the suppression of the activists in the 30s and the Cold War and anti-communism and all of that. It was quite deliberate. And so, that's all over with. I mean, we passed through that and that kind of proscription doesn't work anymore. hasn't worked once you had poetries from groups that weren't able to write, to publish anyway, before. I think that's what broke it. And of course, we're getting the reaction to that now. Things we were able to break open and do. And they have named what we broke open and did quite specifically in terms of their project.
Okay.
I've really admired both of your work for a long time. Juliana, I got to know your work in, like, I don't know, in the not 90 something, 90, from my students who were very engaged in opening up their work, in more innovative ways. And Claudia Rankine told me about Mark. This was way before Citizen. This was really early. This was when your first book was out, I think. And I kind of devoured it and then looked for another one and, followed you, especially admire the projects that you take on, and also your building of community that you've done.
I have no say, I'm bashful. I mean, it was just so great to read with both of you. It was really lovely, and with everybody, with the readers who came beforehand. And I love these poets. Like, one of the poems that, and maybe the both of you could say too, like, one poet who you read a lot with your work, or one book of poems that felt really important. I know that when I was working on mine, I just kept going back to Raul Zurita's book, INRI, which I just think is a phenomenal book. And I heard him read from it at the Poetry Project before the pandemic. And the stanzas from it, like his ability to talk about the government dropping the bodies of activists from the sky through kind of metaphor and metonym, and were just so powerful to me that I kind of couldn't. I just kept coming back to it over and over again as I was working on my book. So if I encouraged anybody who's listening to read one book besides both of yours, it would be Raul Zurita's INRI from New York Review of Books.
Yeah. We just gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award in Canada, and he read so magnificently. It was, nobody wanted to do anything else the whole night. It was amazing. He's still traveling and he's still reading. It's extraordinary. Whenever,
say,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Juliana?
I was going to say Césaire's Notebook of a Return to My Native Land, which I feel like is a poem you could read endlessly, and I still will not fully get all of it. I can't hold it all in my brain at the same time, but I really love it.
Whenever anybody asks me to name one thing in a large group of things, I never can narrow things down and I panic. But I can think of a poet that I dip into a lot now. And I realize maybe it has something to do with how he lived. George Oppen, American. We have nothing in common in our work, really, but how he works with the language and his courage, his willingness to live what he believed, and I really admired him. But a lot of others.
Yeah.
I only said Oppen because I had to say one.
Juliana, would you say the poet and title
Oh, Amy Césaire,
Oh,
Notebook of a Return to My Native Land.
mhm.
It gets translated differently. There's actually like 5 translations of it, which I also find slightly fascinating reading them all because they're kind of they're very different.
It
Yeah,
is.
I'll put it in
In,
chat. Oh,
in
there.
the
Thank you.
chat, his name is in the chat.
Oh, good, good.
So, yeah.
Um, what is one thing you've done like out in the community to address some of your deepest uh, causes that you feel most proud of?
I can't talk about mine. That's,
You can't talk about what?
I can't talk about mine publicly. So I'll pass to the others.
Okay, I got it. I got it. That's great. Well, so how about you pick one that you can identify?
I'll wait and then, yeah, go ahead. Else.
I know what this means. I have to go first. I see the pattern. For me, it's always the worker writer school. And we have now been meeting for almost 20 years. People who during the pandemic had been championed as frontline or essential workers and then immediately forgotten about after the pandemic. So it's a free monthly workshop that I run for members of different worker centers in New York City, but elsewhere. We have members from the Domestic Workers United, New York Taxi Workers Alliance, Street Vendor Project, the organizing Starbucks baristas, and others. We get together once a month to write. But to me, the kind of great public event was a couple of years ago on May Day. I was working with the DIA Art Center in New York City, and I remember this moment from the Occupy Wall Street marches, where when we were walking over the Brooklyn Bridge, this group projected just the circle like a bat signal with 99% up on the Verizon building, and how excited everybody was for that as everybody was marching over the bridge. And so I said to the folks at DIA I wanted to project the workers' poems on the Brooklyn Bridge on May Day. And we ended up finding that projectionist. They're called the Illuminator in New York City. They're really fantastic. And we projected poems from Dumbo onto the stanchions of the Brooklyn Bridge. And so to see like taxi drivers who, had for 40 years been driving Wall Street people and drunk people to Brooklyn home and whatever, having their words on the Brooklyn Bridge that night was just it was really fantastic. And there's a video of it at the DIA website. Actually, I'll put it in the chat after everybody else answers.
That's wonderful. Juliana.
I mean, I would, it's easier to answer that question about what I feel indebted to. Maybe rather than proud, which I'm not even sure what it would be. But I mean, you know, Occupy Oakland really changed a lot of things for me in terms of like getting involved more in street protest, reading an entirely different series of books, having different conversations that changed both my like really changed my scholarly work actually in kind of weird ways. Um, and I feel like a huge debt to that. Like you don't get that often, something like that. You don't get to witness it. It's like I hadn't been able to witness it before. And I'm very grateful.
I could, in the literary sphere, I founded Writers Corps, which in the mid 90s, and it was in San Francisco and Washington, D.C. and the Bronx. And it was to get poets and writers involved in schools, after school programs with the kids to get them all writing and, uh, helping them with their work. specifically storytelling. And there are parts of that program that are still going on. And you know, I'm proud of that and all the people who were in it. Ta-Nehisi Coates was one of the Writers Corps kids who got it, you know, in the beginning. A lot of things happened with them. And then the other one is Founding Lannan Center at my university, Georgetown. And both Mark and Juliana have been with us in various ways. We do a big symposium on some issue every year. We did one on in the environment when Juliana came, and it was the time of the pipelines and, you know, protests against the pipelines and a lot of other things. But we do a different large issue every year, and we have a lot of readings and now we get to do our work in perpetuity, which is wonderful. So those things I would say those are things that can keep going without me. That's what I like about them.
You know, what the three of you have just shared in responding to that question gives our audience tonight an opportunity to know something else about you. And I think whether you talk about what you're proud of or what you feel indebted to, I think all three of you have such a deep commitment and an appreciation for, well, the privilege of witnessing. You know, how, Juliana, how that's inspired you. And I imagine, Mark, how the workers and their blossoming has inspired you. And Carolyn, I'm probably being reductionist with all of this, but the people that you witnessed in the revolution and the repression, whatever that you've witnessed. I know I have some of those stories. Being a psychotherapist, I have, you know, I get to witness almost full time, but there is a privilege to it. And as writers, there's also the opportunity to usher other people's stories or things that are feel urgent to you. And for that, I thank you. And for being with us tonight also, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Yeah, this was a wonderful evening. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All your
Yeah.
time and our open micers too. It's an interesting conversation between you. Thank you.
Yeah. And buy our poets' books. Stay tuned for Frank X. Walker and Jeremy Payton, the Appalachian Poets Collective. And thank you for being community with us.
Thank you.